The Christmas Truce of 1914. War can bring out the worst in humanity, but every now and then, even in the darkest of times, we find moments that restore our faith in kindness. Today, we're going to step back in time to Christmas Eve, 1914, during the First World War. A time when soldiers from opposite sides of a brutal conflict came together to celebrate peace, if only for a brief, magical moment. This is the story of the Christmas Truce of 1914. It's December 1914, and Europe is gripped in the throes of the First World War. The Western Front, a line of trenches stretching from the North Sea to the Swiss border, is where soldiers from Britain, France, and Germany face off in a relentless struggle. Every day brings the sound of gunfire, explosions, and the cries of soldiers from both sides. As Christmas approaches, the soldiers in the trenches are far from home. Their thoughts drift to family, warm meals, and holiday traditions. But in this grim setting, there's little to remind them of the joys of the season. Or so they think. Then, something unexpected happens. On Christmas Eve, 1914, soldiers from both sides begin to hear an unfamiliar sound. It's not the usual cacophony of war, but rather, singing. The British soldiers perk up their ears. Do you hear that? They're singing. It's Silent Night. From the German trenches, the haunting melody of Silent Night drifts across no man's land. It's a song both sides know well, even though the words might be different. Incredibly, the British soldiers respond in kind, singing their version of Silent Night. The sound of the war is drowned out, if only for a moment, by the shared music of Christmas. The next morning, something even more astonishing occurs. In small pockets along the Western Front, soldiers from both sides gather the courage to leave their trenches. White flags are waved, and instead of bullets, there are smiles. In a spontaneous and unsanctioned truce, British and German soldiers meet in no man's land, the dangerous territory between the opposing trenches. But today, it's not dangerous. It's a place of peace. They exchange gifts, share stories, and for the first time in months, they see their enemies not as foes, but as fellow human beings. Here, have a cigarette. Merry Christmas. Cheers, mate. Merry Christmas to you too. Then, something extraordinary happens. A soccer ball appears, and in an instant, the soldiers forget about the war. They play a match right there, in no man's land. Brits versus Germans. No uniforms, no ranks, just men playing a simple game. Who won the match? Well, that's still up for debate. But what matters is that for a few short hours, the fighting stopped, and the only thing that mattered was the joy of the game. But as with all good things, the Christmas truce could not last forever. As night falls, the soldiers return to their trenches. The war will continue, and they know it. But for one day, they've shared something special, something human. A brief respite from the horrors of war, and a reminder that even in the darkest of times, peace and goodwill can still shine through. The Christmas Truce of 1914 was not a grand event orchestrated by leaders or governments. It was an act of spontaneous humanity in the middle of a brutal war. It reminds us that even in the most difficult of times, we can find moments of connection, kindness, and hope. Though the truce didn't end the war, it left a lasting legacy, a reminder of the power of empathy, even in the worst circumstances. Perhaps that's the true spirit of Christmas, finding light in the darkest of places. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed this story of peace amidst war, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories from history. Merry Christmas, everyone!